Okay, so I had this rotten beam. Part of it was rotten because the way the drainage system on this, which really shouldn't have a drainage system, but the drainage system on this pergola would drain out and down these beams, some of which would come through these handrails, and the water would end up seeping onto the beam. And so it didn't really happen on this end as much as it did on the other end. This end's pretty good, I thought, but the other end was really rotten. So it probably went about, at its deepest, about 3.5 inches deep into the beam. So what I did was I built these little frame things on either side of the beam, and then I filled up the beam with Woody's Wood Epoxy, and I'll show you what that is. First of all, I bought one bottle and then 2 more bottles of this PC-Petrifier wood hardener. You can just get it off Amazon. And I sprayed that all over it and let that set. And this, to me, acted like you were spraying super glue all over something. It just absolutely turned it into a rock. So that was great stuff. So then after that, I bought 96 ounces or 48 ounce, 2 48 ounce cans of this putty, this epoxy, and PC Woody Epoxy, part A and part B. It's quite difficult to stir up. They say it's like peanut butter. It's like really, it's more like cooling taffy. It's pretty hard to mix, but if you get it mixed up really well, it's amazing the chemical reaction that it has. You can actually feel it turn warm. I went back in to stick a wire into the work, just to kind of poke a wire down in there for additional reinforcement at one point, and I could feel the warm chemical reaction that was going on. It's pretty amazing. Apparently it forms some elongated carbon chain that is just as strong as wood. So that PC Woody. So then I ended up buying a couple of pairs of 48 ounces and to finally finish the job. So I have a little bit left here in case I need it at the end. But this stuff has now gone hard as a rock where I've sealed up that beam. So first of all, I broke all the garbage out of the beam, kind of tore out everything that was loose. I put that PC-Petrifier in there, and then I filled it. I put the frame on, and then I filled it in with this PC Woody Epoxy. Okay, so now having done that, I'm going to take these frames off, and I went to the metal shop and had these custom brackets made for the corners. And so I'm gonna put those custom brackets on, and I made one for each corner. And the beam itself had still plenty of layers to make it so that it's strong. You can see it's got a whole bunch of layers in there that are basically these 2x8s or 2x6s that make up the beam. And so I'm just filling it back in. So I'll pull those brackets out, those frame pieces off now, and get it going. So you'll notice too that I used this wax paper here. I wrapped these boards in wax paper, hoping that this stuff here, I mean really, it's hard as a rock, that it will not stick to the wax. Well, actually, it'll stick to the wax paper, I'm pretty sure, but I'm hoping that the barrier of the wax paper will enable me to remove these boards and leave behind the wax paper, which I can sand off if I feel like it. But I put that on both the inside boards here and also on these exterior boards. So it's pretty cool. I just put this wedge in here, this crowbar, and started to do this, and it's just coming right off. So it shouldn't be hard at all to get this off. I'm pretty excited to see what it looks like inside. So even the wax paper is tearing off. I'd be lucky. I had to use some of this blue tape at the end, kind of fit it in there so I could make sure I could pull the board off. But it actually worked great. The wax paper really worked well. So you can see now that how well that's filled in. And let's see here if that comes off. That's all my new board in there. So let's take this thing here, tear that off, get this cleaned up and show it off a little. So it's looking really good. It even has kind of a grain to it. There's still wax paper in there, but I'm going along with a hammer right now and just kind of breaking off the edges here so they don't hang over. It's funny, this PC Woody stuff says that it's stronger than wood. I believe it. That's amazing. When I mentioned I put that wire in there, I strung a wire in here, just kind of all along here, just kind of, I don't know, I had bought it so I put it in there, but you could put actually a little steel, like a screen, kind of a grid, some of that stronger steel grid, and that would work too. But we had quotes to repair this deck, this beam, as high as $5,000, and this whole project now is costing me about $400 to fix. So far so good. Okay, so here now I had my wife, she went and had these custom corners made, these straps for the corner. So, because my biggest fear was that this post here was gonna come off. And so now I stuffed this epoxy in here until it came out the other side. And I mean, I could see the 4 posts coming down that hold this in. So now I've completely encased those 4 posts in epoxy and have taken this strap and screwed it all the way around the corner. So that corner isn't going anywhere, and this wood is not rotting any further. So I sanded off the edges there. You can see the blue tape was tough, so I totally recommend wax paper, wrapping your boards in wax paper. And then that strap is just awesome. So then I have another strap that we made so that the corners would be matching. So I'll put one down on that end, which may or may not be helpful, but we'll make it so that it at least balances. So for the accountant and us, things balance. So really excited about how this project going so far. Okay, so I'm ready to fill in whatever I can with what's left of this epoxy. So I'm gonna dig whatever I can out of these cans. I'm gonna use these gloves here. Totally recommend these because this stuff is a mess on your hands, although it does come off with mineral spirits. And so I'm gonna mix this up on this paper plate. I tore apart these little weapons here, made my wife go buy some new ones. They work pretty well for scooping and stirring and for applying. You just have to, you can't mix them up because once the one flavor meets the other flavor, it starts the chemical reaction, so you can't mix them up. So it doesn't matter if you mix them up on the spoon, but then don't stick it back in the bucket. Okay, so this is what it's like, and it's pretty thick stuff. So I got too much here on this plate to mix up. I got greedy. I recommend doing smaller doses, or if you can, once you start to run out in these cans, you can start to mix them in a can, or you can get a can to mix them in, but that'd be a little bit better. Okay, so it's looking pretty dang good. I took this bracket and put it on, and I put it level with the inside here and with these beams, so that when I would fill it in with the epoxy, I would have something to level against to put that last board down on top of to finish the deck. So I put this metal bracket on, so it looks really solid. And then I put this other piece of wood on here wrapped in wax paper so that I could continue the level. down to the end here where it was level with these beams that are coming off. So anyway, I'm gonna let that dry, and then we're pretty much ready to put that piece of Trex back on top. And then I'll put the deck back on, or the railings back on. And then this corner over here, I had a couple of a little bit of rotting on this corner, but not much at all. So I just sealed it up with the rest of the epoxy that I had. And then I put this other bracket on the corner. So now it's looking pretty good. Okay, so it's all dry now. It's been a week since I was doing this last. And so this is as solid as can be. And I've taken off the frame boards, and you can see it looks like wood in there. It looks like I just have pine that just fit right in there, but it's solid, more solid than pine, and there's no way that that is going to get any water through there to continue to rot. And so I've still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5.5 boards before I get to this work, and that's like super strong, plus this bracket on the corner. I'm not sure this isn't stronger than it was before, you know, when it was first made. So I've also drilled some holes in the bottoms of these to let water out, so that if it does come down this pipe anymore, if it comes down this pipe, then that won't cause a problem. Thought I'd back up and just show you the whole pergola here. That's the whole construction. So in order to replace this beam, they were going to charge me over $4,000, almost $5,000 to brace up the deck, brace up the pergola, and then pull the beam off and replace the beam. The beam is connected to every single one of the joists that come across the bottom. So this is going to be way less money. So anyway, and I think probably every bit as good. So I'm excited about the results here. So now I've got this board here that unfortunately one corner broke off a little bit when I was dismantling things. Probably too aggressive with it. Didn't realize I was going to reuse it or want to reuse it. But that board right there will then fit right onto here. What I'll probably do is go see if I can find a little piece of Trex and cut that off right there, and just mount that new piece of Trex right there to go to finish off this end. But I think I'm going to reuse this because it's the same color as the rest of it. It has the same aged life in the weather. So I'm going to stick it, you know, somewhere right there and drill that all in and try to mount this. This is the one that was probably letting the most water down through because it was completely rusted out. So I had to use a pry bar to literally just pry this out. I couldn't get the screws to come out. So anyway, okay, so I'm going to sand this down one more time. Just this new stuff that I did on the end. Make it look as pretty as I can, even though it's going to be covered up. Just smooth it off so the water doesn't have any place to pool, and then we'll go from there. All right, so it's all put back together. Got this corner all down and got all the vinyl railing put back on, and I think it looks great. I actually had to ad hoc a anchor for this post on the left there, but I think what I did will work great. So it's just a long bolt that goes clear up through there to the anchor inside the bottom of that beam, and I just used a nut to secure it. And I still need to scrape off that blue tape, but I've got a tool to do that with, and this just looks like it was born together. I'm really pleased with the way that turned out. So, looks strong as ever. Okay, so now it's been 1 year since I did that, and you can see I filled in that corner there with a little block of wood, and I put some stain on that, and I stained everything with some outdoor weatherproofing stain, and it looks like it's doing great. And I put stain all the way around the corner, and that was last year. And so now we've been through a winter and a summer since I finished this project, and I'm finishing up this video today and just Gonna publish it, but I think it looks great. Project worked well.